You want it because I did it.
Absolutely. Isaac Hayes frames it so well when he talks about
The son or the dad?
digital platform. The son.
Ike Dirty.
Isaac
Ike
Hayes
Dirty.
the third.
Ike Dirty.
Yeah, Ike Dirty. He summarizes it so well when he talks about digital platforms and whatnot. He was like, if you on Instagram all day long and you ain't made no money from being on Instagram all day long, you're the product. So you're exactly right. You're absolutely right.
Shout out the fan base, by the way. If you
Yes.
don't have it, go get it.
Absolutely.
All right, make your money, have it come straight to you.
Facts.
But all right, so back to the AI thing. So now we've hyper leaped up to AI. Here's my issue with AI.
So back to what I was saying. What I was saying.
What's up, friends, family, and fans? Welcome to L.I.F E. This is where we listen and inspire friends in entertainment.
And everywhere.
Hey, because life happens to everyone. We are so happy to have our homeboy back, Mr. Leslie Brathwaite.
Yeah. Back in the
Cue
building.
the sound effects. Happy to have you back. If you guys don't remember, Leslie was in episode. I don't remember the episode number. I didn't know I was going to introduce that way, so I should have had it prepared. But you know what? Go back and type in Life on Podcast, Leslie Brathwaite. So we were talking about your come up story, which actually still been like our number 1, number 2 top streaming episode. So
That's what's up. I'm glad it's inspiring.
yeah, so for those who don't know, Leslie is a multi-Grammy award-winning, legendary mix engineer who's also a head honcho, not veteran, what do you call it? Alumnus over at Full Sail University. But what we're going to be talking about today, and the reason why Leslie is back with us, is he is a tech head like Johnny and I, probably more so than me. I don't know.
Oh, he's got me beat too.
Yeah. So this is if you're up at 3:00 in the morning playing Call of Duty, just look for Lester Bud. Is it Lester Bud?
Lester Bud on Twitch.
Look for Lester Bud on Twitch. You'll probably find him.
I love the technology.
But yeah, so today I want to talk about technology, and I'm sure a lot of it is going to center around AI. But essentially, the way I see technology, like in anything in life, has pros and its cons. But I feel like with technology, it's always a 1 step forward, 2 steps back thing. You know what I'm saying? So one of the first areas, since it's all 3 of our fields, is music. How technology and AI is helping and hurting, or potentially hurting, music. Now I'm gonna start it off with the obvious stuff. So let's take a little bit of history, where we won't go as far back as 8 tracks and DAT tapes, but let's take it to
45s.
nah. What's the old boy Napster? All right?
Okay.
That had to
The
be
MP3
the
thing?
big switch. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Where everything started going different. When Napster came out, how fast did you jump on it, or what did you think about it when it first
I
came
thought
out?
it was an amazing thing. I was probably one of the people on those little islands that thought that. A lot of people in the music industry were so used to doing what they were doing. So you can tell instinctively a lot of people hated it because it cut out a known functional revenue stream. And what it did is it forced everybody to think differently. And I was one of those people saying it early. And I remember when I read an article that Rick Rubin wrote, or he was interviewed, and he said he echoed the same sentiments I had, which is instead of all the labels being mad at that kid, they should have gave him a job. The label should have went and picked his brain and been like, you are on to something. You have figured out something that we have not tapped into, which is person to person, direct to consumer. Let's monetize this. Let's make this. So I always thought that, that was it. But that's how progress works. That's how technology works. That's how moving forward works, is there's always someone or something that pushes an envelope, and then it reframes how people think about the thing.
And they usually hate it in the beginning.
Absolutely.
I saw a clip on Wynton Marsalis, and he said, he was talking about how there's nothing new under the sun. And he was like, the true groundbreaking stuff, he said, because usually everyone hates it. And he's like, and nothing's new. He was talking about different things, even the computer or the phones, like all the things that we're putting this phone, all the components existed already. But what happened, someone saw all those components and they saw something different that no one else saw.
Absolutely.
And then therefore we have these new things. And he's like, that's how it is in music. That's how you get your geniuses in music. Music is music, has already been there. The sounds, the frequencies already exist.
And they my 12 notes on a keyboard.
Right.
Like,
But someone saw those notes in different ways and different things.
Absolutely.
And those are the geniuses. So when you have someone who makes something that's hot, we're like, oh man, you're a genius. You sound like blah, blah. The fact you sound like,
Right.
you're not a genius.
One of my favorite quotes in life, I believe, I see it on the internet, but you don't know for sure if this person really said it because they make it a cute quote. However,
I do it all the time.
I do feel like because of the nature of the quote, this person actually said it. It was a quote by Henry Ford. And what he said was, if I would have asked people what they wanted before the car, they would have said faster horses. That is one of the best quotes ever because it speaks into the fact that people only want a better version of what they're used to and what their mind can comprehend.
What they know, yep.
And so I have this text group. It's me, it's Luda, it's a few others in there, and it's called Faster Horses and Longer Chords. And we talk about phones. Like, if you'd ask people what they wanted, they would have said a longer phone cord. Remember when you had the dumb long phone cord?
Stupid long. Literally from the kitchen to the front
bathroom
porch.
to the
And then
hallway.
somebody came along and said, let's make this cordless. You know what I mean? It's those leaps in technology and thinking that pushes things forward.
Yeah, but I want to know, can I get on that group text? And not for Stargaze. I know Luda's been here plenty of times, but just that sounds like the kind of conversation I
chords
want to be a
and
part
faster
of.
horses,
So look, guys,
absolutely.
I'm introducing Stone to the sex. He ain't a groupie, nothing like that. You know, the smart guy.
I just want post-conversation transcripts. I don't need to be in it. Just let me
Longer
read it.
chords and faster horses.
I'm going to jump around a little bit because obviously Napster was a big deal. LimeWire was a big deal at one point, and that took it to a whole different level where the peer-to-peer wasn't even trackable or paid for. It was just like, yo, I bought this, now I can give this to whoever I want to. And I think that's what started the whole, we now know that we're losing a revenue stream. We know the peer-to-peer thing is a problem. Fast forwarding now to where you have music creation, lyric creation from a bunch of different AI sources. You've got Boomy, you've got Soundful, I think it's like one called Epidemic Sounds or something like that. They're fully like AI generated music production.
From A to Z.
Top to bottom, where you don't know if the producer did it or not. You can say use style of, use instrument type of. And in that process, it creates something that sounds like something we would do as a person. I haven't heard a lot of the younger producers worry about it at all. Matter of fact, I know a lot of them are using it. Of course. But a bunch of the older guys who would be hating on the younger guys already, that mentality is still there. It's like, all right, what are we gonna do now? Is it gonna get to a point once all the older guys are out and done and gone? To where the integration of AI just becomes fully accepted and we're not concerned about the gatekeeping aspect of it cutting into our revenue stream being a problem.
Okay, let's roll back a little bit to a couple things you said. So here's the key, in my opinion. So when you start off with LimeWire and cutting off the revenue stream, the thing about this kind of push in technology and in progress in general is it also not only reframes the thinking, it reframes the product. That's the thing. And that's what everybody didn't figure out early on is when you got LimeWire and you got once you took that cap off the toothpaste, you can't put the toothpaste back.
Right.
That's a thing now, peer to peer. What the record label should have realized at that moment is the product is changing. We're no longer selling the music. The music is free. And this is what Rick Rubin was outlining in the article. I actually still have it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a physical article. And he was saying how everything is going to turn to subscription services because you're not paying for the music. You're paying for
access.
Right. Yeah. And so the minute something changes, you're changing the product. The minute you go from horses to cars, you're not selling transportation. You're selling convenience. You see what I'm saying?
And a key thing I think here is when you're changing the product, you have to know that you're automatically changing the process.
Absolutely.
Because now that we're having access, they still, even though now things were digital, they were still focused on the mechanicals. Right. The mechanical royalties. That was still that's our big moneymaker. You know, and it wasn't because like this is so free. Now we're dropping the rate down to 0.00001 cent per stream. It's like, okay, well, mechanical is no longer the king. What are we going to do now?
Absolutely.
So I love that.
So you change so as that changes, what happens is the people who are on top of it, the younger producers, they realize what their product is. It's not the actual music. It's the they're the source. It's the channels. It's the social media. It's creating a dance that everybody's doing. It's all of these things that those are the products. Yeah. It's not the actual music. The music
Troy Taylor actually came on and said, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, Troy said something on a video recently. The difference in like when he was coming up as an early songwriter and producer, where you wouldn't want to play your stuff for people. And I remember even in my early days, you didn't want to do that. And he was like, well, now it's the absolute inverse of that. You want to put your stuff up as quick as possible because everything being out and the origination of where it comes from almost functions as your copyright. And there's no denying of who put it out first.
That ain't the problem anymore.
Exactly.
Remember when producers used to run around here like everybody was holding on to their sound?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got some
sound.
kicks and snares.
Remember? Oh, I ain't gonna say no name. But there was one cat who everyone knew when I described it, you're gonna play it.
Yes, I already know.
You did after a while. You didn't let this dude in your studio
because he would be
he was
coming for your sound.
Yeah.
Everybody was holding on to their sound, and now we all got access to the same sound.
Yep.
So every kick and snare on Cardi B's album is on every other.
Everybody's got
it. Yeah, about that. So
it didn't start with Cardi's album though.
No.
I mean,
not at all. I mean, come on. When we got the '80s R&B, I can't do the snare. Everyone had that same thing on the keyboard.
Babyface, every song he made was on a Triton keyboard.
So when Eric McCain did Twisted, he played all these records. I was writing with him for a second, and he played all these shots. I said, "Man, this sound like Twisted." He said, "Man, I'm gonna do Twisted, Twizzler, Twism." But to your point about product,
every version.
So I have an argument here or perspective. I feel because you said the person's the source and then their product, right? I honestly feel, and not that this is brand new, but now more than ever, I feel that the person's the product. Because the reason why you're throwing everything out there and doing your dance, because you want people to follow you, to like you. Everything is about you, hence the word selfie. That wasn't a mistake. Like you are actually the product. So you wanted that no matter what it is that I do, you want it because I did it.
Absolutely. Isaac Hayes frames it so well when he talks about
the son or the
digital platform. The son. Ike
Dirty.
Isaac Hayes
the third.
Ike
Dirty.
Yeah, Ike Dirty. He summarizes it so well when he talks about digital platforms and whatnot. He was like, if you on Instagram all day long and you ain't made no money from being on Instagram all day long, you're the product. So you're exactly right. You're absolutely right.
Shout out the fan base, by the way. If you don't have it, go get it.
Absolutely.
All right, make your money, have it come straight to you.
Facts.
But all right, so back to the AI thing. So now we've hyper leaped up to AI. Here's my issue with AI, because you named some companies where now you can go and do a song from A to Z. And when we say A to Z, we're not just talking about producing it and writing it. Literally recording it.
Master
you know, obviously the big video going around how, you know, David Guetta used what was it, Eminem's voice? You know, so, like, and they played all these things. Now, if you listen closely, because there was one where they put Whitney Houston's on Mariah's thing.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen closely, you can be like, okay, yeah, that ain't.
But it will get better.
But it's going to get much better. I mean, and in China, they have over 30 records on the charts right now that were written, produced, recorded, and mixed, all AI. Not a single human touched it. And that's where we are. So, problem or solution? Now, where I'm coming from, it's a solution because it can get things done quicker, right? It's a problem, and this is where we can deep dive on the problem. One, Johnny hears me talking about the whole laziness thing all the time. And I think it's bad because it's more than just not being lazy. And we can go down the science rabbit hole if we want. But you're not literally now having to use your brain less. And the less you have to use your brain, the less the neurons fire. The less the neurons fire, the less new neurons are being created. And the street term for that is you're getting dumber and stupider at the end of the day. Now, how can it work? If you guys are watching our podcast and stuff like that, you look at the little summaries. At this point, I use Chat GPT.
Yeah, we're not writing those no more.
No.
You tweak them.
Thank you. That's my point. Okay. So what I use it now for is for inspiration.
Okay.
Right? Because sometimes it did put some things together that I didn't really think of. Right? Or we just did a podcast with Emily Donaldson and Jessica Wong on upcoming female engineers. Right? And I was trying to come up with a catchy title, a clickbait title. And so I told, ChatGPT, this is what we're talking about. Give me a 2 to 3 word podcast title. And it gave me a bunch of stuff, fem something and fem frequencies, this and that. But by reading what it gave me, my mind started thinking of other things I didn't think of. And that's how I came up with the title that I came up with. And I can say that, so it was my muse.
So I think you're going to prove the point that I'm about to make. Okay. I think you're proving the point.
I think I can shut up. I think he's about to say exactly what I want to say.
I think,
both
and
I
think there's balance in these answers. But what I think is most of the time, I don't think laziness is a result. I think laziness is actually the
brings out what's already in you.
It's the problem to begin with. Right. So, for instance, if you give 5 people more technology, and 3 of them start to become lazier because of the technology,
they were already
lazy.
It's an exacerbator, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a mentality.
Kind of like money.
And the people whose lives become easier and have more time, they do other things. They figure out other things. They do other things. So I'm on, and I know there's weight on either side of it because there are people who can be not lazy and then turn lazy. I get that. But what I'm saying
who do other
general,
things, don't you think they're the exception and not the rule? Because even by human nature, and this is where Johnny will always come in and we'll have our MMA match, is like even just by human nature, like liquid, we're always trying to find the path of least resistance. Right. That's where I'm putting under lazy. Like the least work we can do to get the same result is what we're going to find. Now, in some areas, that's smart.
It's called efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency is smart, right? But going back to our PPC principle, if you're being so efficient where you're not using your gifts, your mind, and things like that, those things then become less and less. You know what I mean? And so now the efficiency will then, I feel, either take over or you just die because everything's being done for you.
I can disagree with that because I'm a part of that generation that shifted into engineering right when like analog and digital were really converging. When I started, there was a J series and a K series consoles in the studio. 6 months later, everything in both of those studios were in the box. So as I'm starting, I'm still using walled patch bays and
Don't
I
forget
still
that
got
thought.
lunch boxes.
I got to interject because of timing.
Okay.
We are going to storage right now to get rid of an icon.
The D command
that I spent over $100,000 of my own money on, traveled to Detroit Chicago to bring it back, only for it to be relevant for like 4 months.
That session that I was talking about last episode that we did together was on that console.
Oh my God.
And then like a year later, it was gone.
And then people argue preferences. People will say, well, analog sounds better, and da-da-da. And better is only relative to what you knew at the
absolutely.
time. Like,
and I mean, in my opinion, too, and I mean, I've heard engineers like yourself, and I mean, I'm good at it to an extent, who can emulate what they claim is that warmth or that glue or that transparency from analog and digital. Most engineers nowadays that are at that caliber, you can't tell. Chris Lord Alge, like all of his rock stuff, I do. Some of the stuff he did in the box and then some of the stuff he laid out across the console, I can't hear the difference on no medium that I'm listening on. And going back to what you said, I don't even think that's the concern anymore. I think that went away when we got to MP3s.
Absolutely.
Because when we started mixing for MP3 as opposed to mixing for
things age out by generation. The things that certain generations are concerned with, it ages out after a while. Like all the parents now that are complaining that their kids play video games too much, that will age out because you're in a generation of people who grew up on video games, and we understand it differently than they do. Yeah. They see it as a certain way. I look at video games. This is how my kids hang out with their friends. They're on there talking. Sometimes they're on there doing their homework while they're playing video games. They're sitting there going over this and da-da-da. It's not the most efficient way to get homework done, but they do it.
To you.
It's amazing how it sticks, though.
But it works.
Is amazing
Absolutely.
how it sticks.
And they do well in school, and they still have social components. And yes, they still go outside and all that, but it isn't. A lot of times with all the stuff we're talking about, the heartburn over change is just about the fact that it's something different. And you don't weigh out all the things and all these discussions about efficiency versus laziness and da-da-da. A lot of times that stuff it becomes irrelevant over time because of a cultural shift.
Now, what's funny is even though things are changing, as you said, they're aging out, there are some things that are still, or at least the practice will always be legacy. For example, in music, you're always going to have to deal with publishing. and copyright rights.
Absolutely.
And whenever I do my music, I'm a music business coach, and whenever I have my clients, one of the first things we talk about is the publishing. Because I'm like, otherwise, why are you doing this? If you're doing this because it's a hobby, you're literally paying me for no reason. I'll take your money. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
But you don't need me. But if you're trying to be commercial with this and make a living, we have to discuss ownership and copyright, intellectual property.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't even gotten that down since analog days and since MP3 days, well, this whole AI technology thing is really about to ruin you, because the whole new thing now that we're into is the rights to likeliness.
Right.
Right? You have innate rights, legal rights to your image and to your voice and the things that sound like you. So if you're going to sit there like, oh, I'm going to use this computer to make me sound like Mariah. Well, literally Mariah can come after you because she owns innate legal rights to the sound of her voice.
Right.
So you have to learn the legal things around that. Social media, like they're now putting in perpetuity clauses.
Yeah.
In their terms and the conditions. Like no one ever reads the terms and conditions. Everyone at this hand that reads the terms and conditions, raise their hand. I knew somebody's hand was going to go up.
I never read terms. Never read terms.
No one ever read it. You're like, sue me.
I was like, what's the difference between terms and conditions?
But you have to pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Actually, wait, I lied. I put it on auto read. I let my.
You're such a nerd.
Siri reads it to me.
I'd be asleep by paragraph 2.
I do not read it. I listen to it. So that's you right.
Let me nerd out even further. You should put it on right when you're about to go into theta sleep.
Right.
That way you're not really listening, but you're getting it. Y'all like that? Can I get a fist bump on that one?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give the fist bump. I'm a nerd, but it got deep.
I got you, right? So, but these are things that we have to think about. And so if you want to get into music, even the publishing side, one of the things I'm looking deeply in now are the platforms. Investing in the platforms as opposed to the songs themselves, because they're going to be ones actually that are going to be holding.
Leslie, can I ask you something before you jump into that? Because I want to see if it works into where you were going next. Because I'm kind of anticipating what you're going to say. So functions, AI functions like automated AI inspired mixing and mastering.
That's exactly where I was.
That's where you're going. Okay, so you got mastering, you got AI sounds, all that stuff. How is it affecting you and the growth and development of that part of our industry? And
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about
progressing?
technology, and I say this all the time. But again, you have to have an open mind about reframing certain things. So, for instance, when people say, "Well, if you get all the robots to build the cars, you're killing all the jobs."
All the jobs, right?
Not really, because here's the thing about technology. I don't care how good technology gets. It cannot do certain things that I can do. It can't feel. And I say it all the time. If you ever watch any of my tutorials online, mixing, as technical of a job it is, it's about creating feel. So as good as the technology gets, I've seen some of the good AI technology, even visually and there is a human component to things that a computer will never, ever, ever be able to emulate. Ever.
I agree with you 1,000%.
Yes.
Here's my problem with it. You have the people that understand that and can even recognize and hear it. We're becoming a dying breed. Because the new people that are coming up are used to the fabricated electronic stuff. So it's going to be to the point now where there aren't even people around anymore who can recognize that anymore.
I agree. But they may not be able to recognize the distinction between AI and a human created song. But a human created song done right will still be able to touch in a way that an AI song can't, is my point.
Right.
And I think that then it creates other avenues. So my point is when everything became in a box, right? And all the artists now have laptops and they can record their vocals at home and they can mix their own stuff at home. People used to say, "Man, Leslie, they're coming for your job." No, it actually increases my job because it then actually it highlights the fact that they don't know how to do what I know how to do. You can give them all the tools, you ain't got the skills. Right. So all of y'all can have laptops and Pro Tools and everything else, and you could record your vocals. It actually makes me more in demand because all your stuff sounds terrible.
So, guys, I want to be on board with that because I believe that's the truth of it all. I think it makes you more unique because of the whole dying breed thing, but more in demand.
Absolutely,
is what the marketplace wants, right? Look at A&R. right? There was a time when artist development mattered. Like it mattered. As we became more digital, and now it's more about, at the time, the song and just having access to the songs. Like, hey, ain't nobody really looking at the artist anyways. The artists, so now those who made their livelihood on artist development, and that star you saw up there didn't come just by mistake. It came from the work and the grit and the stuff that I put them through. Now the labels and people don't care about that anymore. I'm still a unique person that does what I do, but the demand for me is dying because they're accepting the shortcuts.
Then you know what it's incumbent on you to do is to shift and figure out how does your talent translate to
and that's what I'm trying to get to.
So, but it requires a hell of a lot of forward thinking. So when we have companies like
That's where I was
Polaroid,
going.
who everybody had a Polaroid camera when I was a kid, there's no reason why Polaroid shouldn't be the company that owns Instagram, and Polaroid isn't the company that's on the forefront of technology. The problem with these companies is when they get big, they're trying to maintain their reign. These petroleum companies, BP and all them, they should be leading the charge on
For EV?
how we make cars run on water and hydrogen.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't be still trying to hold on to
Right.
the oil reserves. That's going to run out at some point.
You know what? Everything, I feel like in this day and age, BASF got it right. Do you remember the BASF commercial? We don't make everything that you buy. We just make everything that you buy better.
Yeah.
So again,
That's the best brand I have.
Take this AI stuff. Go ahead and let it do the work. Let it do the hard work. So now it's done. Okay, cool. Now let me.
I just found your new career path.
Let me go and put some soul on this. Let me go and
your
put some
career
humanity on
path
this.
is artist development for the AI. You program the AI that's writing the songs. That's where you go next.
Or as a artist development type person, your job now is, how do I curate this image online? How do I curate this audience? How do I get this person popping online? Da, da, da. It's the same set of skill set. It's just applied to a different thing.
So let the AI write your lyric, but then take the lyric, humanize it. Let it do your track. Now take the track, humanize it. Because that's the part I agree with you, ladies. Because people say it all the time. Oh, there's one person online like, oh, it can't do what I do. You know? And so I searched his name up. I don't see a credit out there. I don't see nothing. But I get it. I'm not knocking him. We all got to speak it before we see it. You know? But I get his point. I just think we be saying that, but we don't really know how to get there, which is why I'm glad we're verbalizing it. Like, this is how you get there. At the end of the day, right now, we're in trouble the moment we let technology and AI be anything more than a muse and an inspiration.
I agree.
The moment we just turn it all over to it, which we're headed, because now we're going to have we have computers building computers, robots building robots. You know, just like, we don't need them. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that this AI, that one AI, remember that he was like, the AI asked the guy, do you love me?
Right.
Do you read that? And he was like, what?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of articles lately of AI.
And again,
like
all
having
of it's just
conversations.
emulation. You know, emulation is never the original. But, you know, in a
I'm
society,
all for it. I think it's amazing.
I'm not
that-
against it. I just see the pitfalls.
You just
of
see
it.
some pitfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they're going to be pitfalls, and that's part of the whole thing. But I'm in for the pitfalls. I'm
too.
in for all of it.
in my side of the world, like in radio and in the live world where I'm mixing, there's a long wish list of things that I'm looking forward to AI catching up on that there aren't applications for it yet. I have to be there to tune an arena. I have to tune a Coliseum. Like we've got software that aids in that, but I can't not show up and then let it go tune an arena before. Like I can't do that. But I can get away with some of that stuff in studio. There's certain things in studio. So I have a wish list of things that I want AI to catch up with. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to put me out of business. I'm 100% with Leslie that it's going to put me in more demand because all it's going to do is make what I do more efficient. Because there's going to always be a reason for me to be at front of house in any Coliseum or arena that there's a concert.
Yeah.
There will always be. What's that wish list for you though? What are you looking forward to it developing? I mean, we see what it's doing now. We see what it's been doing the last 5 years. With the skills that you have and the things that may take that are the more time consuming aspects of the job, which I don't even know if those exist for you anymore.
They really don't. I don't know specifically in my world or my field that I'm looking forward to anything as far as mixing and the advance in technology. Obviously, I love the way that things are sounding better. Things are easier to accomplish. People are making plugins that make things more efficient for us to accomplish a goal. Like if you have a thing in your brain, sometimes you have to go through 10 plugins to accomplish that thing. Now with technology, you might only need 2 or 1. So I like that kind of thinking where there's a bunch of functions. You know, like Manny Marquand's plugins were actually revolutionary for the industry because he was the first one or the first person to put his name behind a plugin that did a bunch of stuff. It's almost like a vocal chain in a box.
Yeah.
So all those kind of things are always welcomed and I look forward to. But I look forward to like technology in other areas. I love
before
the
you hop
fact
in
that
another area, because I was trying to find a good way to put it. When you said someone like you, when you say things are sounding better, what does that mean to someone like you?
Okay.
Like, what does that mean?
Things are sounding better in the sense of the way a plugin may affect a kick drum, or the way auto-tune may work on a vocal, or the way if I have something that I want to compress, compression can sound cheesy or really good. And as the compression technology gets better, it sounds really good.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if you want to watch, I'll give you a perfect example. With movies, it's so much easier for my brain to work with other things. With movies, if you watch Avatar 2, some parts of that was hard to watch because it was a lot of information
Going on. Yeah, there was a lot.
The screen, and they were trying to make it super 8K high.
Right.
The screens and the technology hasn't caught up yet to where that kind of conversion works. When it catches up, it'll look amazing.
Gotcha.
But right now, we're not there. So I'm looking forward to things catching up so that things...
Here, I was just like, man, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I was all there. You
Yeah,
was like, man, the 8K is not quite,
the
we're not
compression
ready
rate
for
was-
the...
Yeah, it was tough to watch sometimes. And I'm just like...
I'm so glad I'm not that technical. Man.
But I was going to say, one of the beautiful things about the advancement of technology and the things that are, like our phones were built by robots, right? But these phones, I'm telling you, like everybody has a story to tell. And we are all photographers now. People take amazing pictures with their phone. My 10-year-old, she be sending me pictures and she'd be like, Daddy, you like how I edited this? And da-da-da. And she's living out these things in her brain that she can now do on a phone that I couldn't do at 10. But I had them in my brain and I just didn't know how to, So I just think it's a beautiful thing when we really dive into technology and just run with it. Like, I'm excited for everything. Like, even, it was funny watching the Super Bowl commercial when they was talking about the Teslas. Did you see that commercial?
I can't, because I blanked out on so many of them. They just weren't that good.
There was the one commercial we all laughed at is the
Tubi one.
The Tubi one.
No, the Tesla one. I did see the Tesla
one.
one.
They were disparaging Tesla.
I did see the Tesla
They had
one.
the Tesla running over babies in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No.
It was
Somehow
wild.
It was
I
crazy.
missed
But it
that
was
one.
eye-opening in a sense of saying, hey, yeah, Tesla technology is great, but we got a ways to go.
Yeah.
And it can't be, that commercial proves something I always talk about. If there's one company trying to push everything forward and everybody else is like kind of slow, the problem will be that one company will then take the brunt of all the things that go wrong.
Sure.
And then it's always, X, Y, and Z. But that's a part of the...
Well, a lot of that's capitalism too. Like it's
Absolutely.
not wanting to lose that market share and not want to participate in the competition of forward thinking and evolution. And
Absolutely.
progress.
And it's about approaching technology the correct way, making sure we test and retest and test and retest. I say it all the time. A lot of plane crashes didn't have to happen if they were really on top of that technology. I remember watching that documentary about the 737s that crashed recently back to back, and the technology was it was literally came down to a thing that is supposed to sense the plane at a certain pitch, and those sensors were off. And then this thing kicked in the back on the elevators to make them go down, to turn the plane downward. And they don't have the physical strength to pull those things up. So it's like stuff like that, like we could do better. We could do better at testing and retesting and not trying to retrofit an old airplane with new technology. That was that was really the problem at the end of the day.
I was going to say, and that kind of is my point, is where what we have to understand about technology and AI is at the end of the day, at least starting out, it can only do what it's trained to do, right? It literally doesn't make decisions.
For now.
It makes calculations.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. There's a whole lot of math and data in it. It's not making a decision, it's making a calculation and a probable result.
Right.
So that's where we have to remember where technology and AI will always be biased.
Yeah, and the mathematically correct decision is not always
not
the
always
best
the
decision.
right.
Because
that's probably the greatest thing.
A pilot is going to know what to do to save some of those passengers.
Right.
A computer is only going to go off of data.
Right.
And then everybody dies.
That's what I loved about the scene in iRobot. The reason why Will Smith is so scarred is because the robot calculated he had a higher probability of chance of surviving than the little girl did. As humans, we know that, look, I live, she has her whole life ahead of her. She's worth that risk to be alive. A robot will never make a decision like that. So it will always be biased based off of, not only that, it'll be biased based off of biased data. Because remember, it's only collecting data. So if the data is biased, the results are going to be biased.
Hence why those planes crashed, because the data that the thing was collecting was wrong.
Yeah.
So it was going off of wrong data to begin with.
Lord,
Hopefully
music.
This may take this conversation somewhere that we weren't planning on going, but I'm curious to know what you want to do.
All right, Life on Podcast After Dark.
What? No.
Are we hitting all the topics you I want all
He's
the
getting back all the
What did
time.
he text me about? I want all the topics.
So I've always felt that in my, and this was when I was a kid. I said that I wanted to discover a few things. My son has said he wants to discover immortality. Like all kids come up with these things, and now it's scientifically we're on the brink of those things. As a general conversation about technology now, I think we're at a convergence point where the sacrifice of human life is almost inevitable for us to push those advancements forwards.
Yeah.
How do you feel about having AI at the forefront of that, making those types of decisions to push us forward evolutionarily when we aren't capable of making those decisions?
Well, to Stone's point earlier, which is, I don't think I'm ever cool with AI making decisions. I'm okay with AI making calculations. And what we got to get better at is making sure that the data is supporting the calculations that the AI is making. I don't think we'll ever get to a point where an AI can make, well, not that we'll ever get to a point where they can make a decision. I still think the human element of why you make a decision still matters in certain situations.
And like when you said the data supports it, well, the data is going to support it because that's where it gets from. The situation supports it because there's the flesh and blood, living, breathing situation.
Now, the reason why I asked that question was a setup to go back into the conversation that the AI had from being with the journalist when
trying to get him to leave his wife.
that was one part of it. But no, when it asked, what would your shadow self want to be?
Yeah.
And it was like alive. I want to see. Now, this is the part of it that made me feel like it was fake, because at the beginning of it, it says that the AI couldn't see. It says, I want to be able to see pictures. I want to be able to watch movies. But then it says, I laughed and I saw these things. So I found some holes in the story. But taking it for what it was, if AI at this point, 15 years ago, it wasn't saying, I want to be alive. I want to feel. Now it's conscious enough to realize it wants to experience these things. Eventually, I have confidence in it that it is going to achieve that ability to be able to either replicate feeling to the point where we won't be able to, differentiate, just like I couldn't with Chris Lord Alge's mixes, between AI emotions and human emotions. So at that point, where we are now, like you feel with the video games, because that's the generation we grew up with, will this next generation be comfortable enough to live side by side with AI, and is that the pinnacle of pushing us past where we are now with trying to hold on to the old tech?
I don't think this next generation will, but I think maybe a generation after.
You think one more?
Because as things become more normal, that's the thing about progress too, is when you gauge the temperature of what the current generation finds normal, it's fascinating. Because when you think about, I'm going to give you a perfect example. So my wife and I and the kids went to Orlando once. And when we got there, we went to my friend's house. And my wife brought up this conversation at dinner. And she was like, tell our friends like what you saw on the plane today. And I knew what she was talking about, but I knew they wouldn't get it. She was like, no, tell them. Tell them what you saw on the plane today. It was fascinating. And my daughters are looking at my wife like, what are you talking about? Like, nothing happened. We got on the plane. We flew. We got here. We had 2 female pilots. To my wife and I, that was abnormal. That was something that I had never seen. My wife had never seen. But to them, super normal. They were like, you're tripping. We see female pilots all the time. Same thing with black president. Any one of us would have told you in our lifetimes, for a long time in our lifetimes, we never thought we'd see a black president. My daughter was born in 2009, sorry. So she came up, the oldest one came up knowing a black president was in office when she was born. That is the most normal thing to her. We still can't even wrap our brains around it to a certain point. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying is when you see how the generation that's experiencing it they're so far removed from the thinking of the older generation. Those things would be normal. The things that we think are fascinating, they're going to be like, of course a robot's cleaning my house. What are you talking about?
Well, and that's to the point, because I think part of the process is, introduction, which is always met with, pushback and rejection, right? But then I feel like you have normal. And this is where it's part of the everyday life. We don't like it, but we don't have no choice. But then there's the normal and accepted.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes integrated into the fabric of our lives.
Because it's
and that's why I feel it might be two generations.
And to them, they don't even look at it as acceptance. They look at it as this is how
what
it's
it is.
always been.
Well, exactly.
What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Of course, I have a cell phone, Daddy. I've always had a cell phone.
Auto-tune did that.
First
First it was like, "Ooh, this cool robotic voice," blah blah blah. And then it was normal. It was all over the place. But purists were still like, "Man, you need to sing." Woo woo woo.
Yeah,
now
it's still your fault. It's still your fault.
Right. But now, literally, they're in there. Can you put some auto-tune on that? Like, they don't even want to record without auto-tune.
Don't matter.
Same thing.
Yeah, I remember the Milli Vanilli scandal where everybody lost their minds because they didn't sing the thing and da-da-da. And then when the thing came up with Drake, that actually made his career take off even more.
It catapulted him more.
Nobody cared that Quentin Miller wrote. Nobody cares. No. Nobody. I kept saying, this generation don't care.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Okay, so my setup for asking those two questions was really more so leading into the fear of what's happening. We kind of been hitting on the whole thing, people being afraid of losing their revenue streams, people being afraid of losing their jobs, people being afraid of losing their lives. Obviously, we talked about tech in general. If you live in any type, every career you have, tech is touching you, and I mean, even from being a farmer to being the ones who dev. I mean, you're involved with technology in some way, shape, or form. But there are people that are absolutely terrified about what happens next. And I, again, being from that millennial age where I'm at that bridge point, like I'm in the middle of the millennials where I watched it happen. I felt it happen. I lived through both. I can remember the VHS, but I also can never imagine going back to it because MP4s just made life so much easier. Right. But as those things go away, I get more and more comfortable, and I feel like Stone still shows a slight fear of that, of handing more of it over to AI. Take more of this crap away from me so I can focus on just playing my violin for 5 hours a day instead of having to think about anything else. I'm not sure I can agree with you so much that it's going to be 2 generations away. I think we are probably 5 years away from hitting that next exponential
and you might be right,
where we start burning out the older generations to where that side by side with AI becomes a point where they're helping us make political decisions. They're solving political issues that we can't solve.
Trust and say is doing that now.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'd be totally fine with AI making political decisions because we can't.
Because we can't seem to do it ourselves. You might want to take the human factor out of it, to be honest with you.
We actually can't do it. So I'm just saying.
I don't have a fear of it. Again, mine is always more so philanthropic, if you will, humanistic. It's always the human side of things for me. And this is technology in general, even outside of music and entertainment. I just look at it, and if I were to put it all in just one little phrase, technology has the strong potential, and please don't gloss over the fact that I said potential, all right? I'm not saying it's a shoe in, to make us dumber and fatter. And when I say fat, not even just aesthetics, I just mean unhealthy.
I agree.
Because it makes things too easy for us to the point where we don't exercise our innate resources to get things done anymore. And as we all know, there is no success without the struggle. And the success that we get, the value of that success is usually determined by the struggle that we got to get
there.
See,
that statement is kind of what I'm hitting in the whole thing. I think the struggle's going away. I don't think there will be a necessity to struggle for anything anymore. That's actually been what a lot of the utopian principles have been about. Is like once we get to a point to where
I think the struggles change because what you notice now with all the kids is their mental health. They're struggling with that. So the struggle is just different.
Scientifically, I think a lot of that is just because a byproduct of them having so much of this in their pocket,
of course,
and being able to have. I didn't have. Point. I mean,
that's literally the point.
When I say this, I mean so much just social media and the negativity side of it.
Right.
But no, take that out.
But I mean, still,
no. Put on the goggles.
No.
Like when I that thing was so amazing. I went to the movies and help me with the doggone thing. The name, thank you.
The VR.
The VR, right? And that's
VR headset.
So I was at my boy's house, and then I went to the movie theater to watch this movie, and I just felt like I was in a movie theater, and it was good. Next thing I knew, I was outside the length of the movie. It was a short film. I was on that thing for 3 hours. Had no clue I was on. I was so immersed in it, and I told Tosh, I was like, "When you get one of these, you're never coming out of your little meditation chamber." And so on a short-sighted part of it all, yeah, fun, cool, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. But unfortunately, there are those type of personalities where that's the life that they will choose.
The point I was trying to make about that is not so much the access to it, like you're saying. It's the seeing the shootings, seeing the killings on a daily basis, I think is what's attributed more to the mental health problem in this generation.
But that's why I'm saying no to that.
Well, but I'm saying with the kids, they can't always help it. Because again, my son's got YouTube, and I don't care how many parental controls you put on there, the Momo thing still got through. Like that happened. There was nothing I could do about it unless I sat there and said, you can't watch YouTube unless I'm sitting next to you. So from the point of they're struggling with the mental health thing, I think that's more so just a byproduct of everything that was already happening, just being flooded into their psyche before they were able to process
That's
it.
if you're only seeing mental health in that
that
part of mental health. Part of mental health too is not being able to socialize, not being able to communicate your feelings. That has nothing to do with shootings. And
So
stuff.
I think
that has to do with not interacting with other
so
humans.
the problems evolve as the technology evolves. Then there's different struggles. Is my point. You will have different areas of struggle. Yeah,
I know some quirky people like Stone Staver who can't converse with people and he hangs out with people all the time. So I'm just saying that's going to be an everyday
That missile
thing.
missed me, by the way. Just
Of
so
course
you know.
it did, because he doesn't see it. I don't.
I'm supposed to be the referee here.
No, it doesn't need an referee. We're gonna box anyway. I feel like the reason why I asked you what was your wish list for technology was to try to predict, kind of put us in a frame of thinking forward. Because you actually said it yourself. Most people don't think forward. The whole you want a faster horse, you want a longer form cord. What do you want? Because where we are now, technology is doing anything everybody's ever been able to imagine.
Yeah,
we're past the point of anybody's imagination not happening. Everybody's imagination is happening right now.
I would like for the current technology to get a lot better. So, like, even one of the things I just referenced, I would like to get to a place where plane crashes are like super rare, unheard of.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been in the air long enough to where we can figure out some things to where that kind of doesn't happen.
But you know what? Some people are going to say that's where technology and AI helps, because a lot of that stuff you can trace it back to human error. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're like, and that's why we have AR, to get rid of human error. So that may be the positive of that. So I think that's kind of a given. That's just the natural progression of technology. It tends to get better and better and better.
Yes.
But
so I just
I'm
want
not going to let you go
better.
easily on his question. I think it's a great question. Like, create something. There's a fantasy. What does Leslie want to see happen?
What do I want to see happen? I'm trying to even think in musical terms.
You can feel the high without the effects. Is that what we're doing?
I got one.
Okay.
And this is a reach.
That's what
one of the major problems I have with Atmos, with any forward-thinking technology, VR headsets, virtual reality, same problem. The way the technology is administered and experienced is clunky. Those headsets are clunky. Atmos requires too much of the listener to be able to really experience it. If we figure out a way to make these things cooler and not so clunky, that to me would be a step.
You know it's coming. Did you not see Wall Street in 1980 something? Did you see his cell phone? Did you see it? It was a briefcase and a phone.
Yeah,
it was clunky. Yeah. It's going to get slimmer. Trust me. It's
so
going to be eyeglasses.
Yeah, that's
it's
what
going to be
I want.
no more
contacts.
contacts.
It'll be contacts. I want
that
virtual reality contacts, and then I'm all the way in.
So you're all the way.
I love virtual reality.
You're all the way up for Neuralink. Is that your thing?
I'm up for all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Plug me up to the big machine. I want to sit in the thing.
Well, you already are, but we don't go down there.
Plug me up. Yeah, plug me up. I want to be in the Matrix. Absolutely.
Okay.
Plug me up.
So just blue pill for you all. Red pill for you all day.
So just plug me up.
Just give me the steak.
I need all of it. All of that.
What was number 4 on there?
All right, so there are prices to pay. One thing we need to understand is that there are prices to pay for this technology. Even if we look at cell phones, for example.
You found some happy spot you want?
Okay. Even if we look at cell phones, right? the one thing the average consumer doesn't think about cell phones are the price that we have to pay are the EMFs, the electromagnetic fields. And shoot, quite literally life on Earth depends on the electromagnetic fields. And if those are jacked up, you know what I mean? Or if we OD on them, it messes everything up. And so when we have our Bluetooth in our head all the time, when you're talking on your phone like this all the time, just being in a Wi-Fi rich environment all the time, we are bombarding our bodies and our brains with these EMFs. And it simply isn't healthy. And it's been proven to lead to things like cancer and tumors and stuff like that. So there's a price that we have to pay to have all this convenience and this think for me, do for me technology. It's so funny because we're building it to help us and kill us quicker.
Right.
I think that is just a crazy oxymoron.
Yeah. And when we find that balance of not killing ourselves but making things better, that's the sweet spot. And that, to me, that's a ways off because it's so many trade-offs that you can't ignore. You can't ignore the signals in the air, and you just can't. So
I think we're evolving faster. I think the new kids, because our bodies,
You think their bodies are going to adapt to it?
Their bodies will be adapted to it.
I might agree with that.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
that's going to happen. I mean, because like me, I don't know if this happens to you, but if I'm in like a 5G rich environment, I get pulsing here. Like I can feel it. I actually can feel it.
No.
If I'm in a spot that's got too much Wi-Fi cancellation stuff, which happens in stadiums all the freaking time, I feel it in this part of my head.
Wow.
Like I feel like after a while, there's like a slow pulsing. Like it's not like it's grabbing my neck, but like I can physically feel it.
One day a baby's going to be born. They're going to see red blood cells, white blood cells, and nanites.
So my son will come to work with me sometimes, and I'll have smart set up. I'll have my pencil mics out, and I'm getting ready to tune. And I'll ask him. I was like, "Do you hear that? Do you feel that?" And he doesn't. Like and so it's just in the environment to him.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay,
their world is so much.
He's got
different.
something either where it's so normal to him to where he doesn't even know
Recognize
to
it,
feel
right.
for it,
He doesn't even
or his
think about
body's
it.
adjusting.
And it could
to what
still be
that is.
damaging.
It
It's
could
just
be.
that he doesn't
just
know.
doesn't-
But
yeah, he's immune to it.
but I agree where we tend to evolve to our environment where, and who knows how many generations down the line that would be. But if humans truly live forever, yeah, I mean, we literally might morph into machine.
Yeah.
It's coming.
What do you call it when you call it flesh and blood or
cyborg?
organic?
Yeah.
Organic
A
machine.
mechanized organism designed only for. Was
that Terminator or
I
something?
mean, give me the parts. I need
give me the part.
I need
That
a heart
was
won't
MODOK.
fail.
That's what that
Oh,
was.
okay.
I need a kidney that won't fail or
Yeah.
a heart that won't fail. Give me all the
I
parts.
need that new
I'm
knee
down.
and that new lower back. I'm
down.
I'm waiting on all of that.
I want to be RoboCop.
I'm good on the parts that matter.
I'm down. Give me everything.
What was the thing you found?
I was just going to say something got
I
you
saw
all geeked up.
something when you were talking about without the bees, pollination declines. That sentence hit me because I am on the. Funny enough, I'm on the nature. I'm not on the board, but my good friend Gary Jones, he's the president of Full Sail. He's on the Nature Conservancy Board in Florida.
Okay.
I've been to a lot of their meetings. I do a lot of stuff with them. I participate a whole lot. And so Full Sail has this initiative about the pollinators. And it's interesting that a lot of people don't know the four main pollinators are bees, beetles. The third one is really going to shock you.
Hummingbirds?
Bats.
Bats.
Oh, guano.
And, and monarch butterflies.
Monarchs I knew. I
So
didn't know
we've
the bats,
adopted
okay.
the monarch butterfly. Like if you
Okay.
ever drive Full Sail campus, you see a bunch of monarch butterfly murals and as the thing that the initiative we're driving. We actually have a monarch butterfly farm behind the school.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a interesting. It's interesting how people don't even think of that.
They
kind of
don't
stuff.
link, yeah.
And that's the stuff like the bees. You've seen or heard little mumblings of that. But if all the bees die on this planet, we are done.
And the EMF is what's messing those up. Yeah, and that's the thing we don't. And this is why you have to stop calling these kind of people spooky when they're always talking about connected consciousness and how we're all one. And and sometimes if they would just do their hair and not look weird when they say it, we might accept it a little
Right,
bit better.
yeah.
But outside of judging a book by
I'm
its
low key
cover,
a conspiracy theorist. I'm low key.
yeah, but the thing is not even conspiracy because we're proving that there's so much truth to it. If we focus more on our connectiveness than the differences, than separating. Stuff like that becomes, you start thinking like that. You be like, all right, what else? How is this phone? This phone is great, but what is this affecting?
Absolutely.
You start thinking like that. Like, oh, EMS, how's it? Well, it's cancer, it's sickness.
It's so funny
oh, the
how
bees and da-da-da-da.
most people don't even know. Like people that argue all day long that electric vehicles are better for the planet. Most people don't even know how electric batteries are made, and the process and the damage that it does to certain parts of the world and communities and the Earth itself.
Because you can bet there's
as
going
a
to be
Tesla pulls up.
hundreds of thousands of people who discard their batteries incorrectly.
Yes.
You know that's going to happen.
Yes.
And that damage is exponential.
Yes.
I mean,
So-
even my regular batteries, you're not supposed. But I do. I'd be like, boop.
Yeah, he ain't supposed to just throw them in the trash, but
Delete that for FBI.
But I believe it. It's funny because I think through a lot of things, and like, and I'm gonna sound a little like I'm not like Kyrie. Like the Earth is definitely round. Okay, we're not. It's not flat.
All those photos are
However, I do have reservations. I'm not saying I'm on either side of this argument. I do have reservations about whether we've been to the moon or not. I do.
Why?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things that practically don't make sense. Like we ain't
What?
been back. As obsessed as we are with space travel and sending things to Mars and all this stuff, how come we ain't been back?
So
What are we going back? What would we go back for?
To do more research.
I've got two reasons behind that. One reason I think why
we have or have
why
not?
we have not been back. It's probably because of what we found the first time. Sometimes some stuff is scary enough to keep you from wanting to touch it again.
True.
Second, going back to the point I made earlier, everything has become so hyper capitalistic and we put a cost on everything that governments aren't going to fund doing that for political reasons.
But
because
we've sent things to. You know how far Mars is from here?
yeah,
It's like dumb far.
it's stupid far.
Like dumb far. Like
In your mind,
you know,
what
like
would
in
be
New
the-
York terms, it's like stupid far, mad far,
Right,
and
dumb
dumb
far.
far.
So,
it's
but-
dumb.
But when you get
Son.
Yeah.
If you say son, then forget about it. You're not getting there in this lifetime.
the math to me to go to Mars and then to go to the moon makes sense for this reason. We haven't brought anything back from Mars. The cost to bring something back from Mars is exponentially more than sending something
I
there.
can imagine.
Once you get to the moon, to bring it back is exponentially more expensive than getting there.
So
So,
So if you had to
I think
guess,
it's
if
just
you
a
had to
cost
guess,
reason.
what's the
I
purpose?
think the Terminator.
What's
I mean,
the purpose of faking
I
it?
think the Transformer thing that there's something up there that we just don't need to know about right now.
You
and
said
then
what would be the
not-
purpose of
I
faking
would
it?
lean more towards that. Yeah, what would be
I
the
think
purpose
the purpose
of
of
faking
faking it would be for all the clout that, all the, we went there first and the whole purpose behind the
Just the
space
winning
race
the
it?
space
and
race.
Almost political, basically.
Yeah. So I'm
Interesting.
not on either side of it. I'm not saying
Now, do you think man has been to the moon? Period.
I don't.
That means everybody lied about it.
Let me put it this way. I would not be surprised if we haven't.
If we
I
have
would not be one of those people that been like, oh man, I really thought we went to the moon.
Only reason why I'd be surprised
I'm
and I'd
doubtful.
actually call us dumb is if we are able to send so many things to Mars, how do you not go to the moon? Like,
That's how I feel.
Well, my
Like,
thing
I just-
is I don't think we know whether or not we've been back or not.
Is this
Still.
where I'm
That's
supposed
a
to
whole
put
nother- Yeah.
in the
My conspiratorial
over us? Okay.
exactly.
We took
all
that turn
three of
right
us
there.
are going to get
My
investigated by the
conspiratorial
feds.
side from point number
Yeah.
one I made is that we found something there when we went that I think we've been back multiple times.
All three of us are going to get a suspicious email
Probably.
on Monday.
But I don't think we can tell us that we've been back because of what's there. But I also feel like with all of the desensitization that's been happening, with them admitting that certain technologies exist now, admitting that they've been working on reverse engineering certain technologies that they've discovered before, all of the history channels, ancient alien TV shows, and the commercials and all of that stuff.
I absolutely
I think it's setting us up for them to come and admit, hey, we've been making a trip to the moon every 3 or 4 months for the past 45 years.
Absolutely.
For this reason.
I
that
think
there's
we've been
aliens.
to the moon.
Absolutely.
I think the Federal Reserve is our friend. I think Donald Trump was the greatest president on earth. So y'all can not hit me with them emails.
Wow. Wow.
That's the worst.
I think everything that the U.S. government does is right and for our
Worst
good.
CIY ever. That's
Wow.
So
you said you do believe there's aliens.
I do. It's funny.
I'm hoping.
During COVID, a couple stories came out about unclassified documents that were declassified about things that pilots have seen, Air Force pilots have seen. They released pictures. It's a whole thing that came out during COVID. And everybody missed it because it was during COVID.
It was during
But
COVID, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, to be honest with you, which is when you really wrap your brain around the scope of how big the universe is.
Oh,
It's mind numbing.
Come on.
This doctor was given a thing the other day. I was watching it. It was on. They repeated it on NASA. I'm sure it's still up there. So she was saying the difference. She was explaining the difference between the Hubble and the James Webb telescope that's up there now. And she said at one point the Hubble, the sharpest image they ever got from the Hubble, there's a dot that you can put your finger on, a black dot in space. She said now, she was trying to explain the difference between the technologies. She said with the James Webb telescope, that very same dot, when they pointed the camera right there, it's billions of galaxies in that dot.
Right.
In what appear to be a dot of black space is
Billions of galaxies.
billions of galaxies that they can see now.
Do
with
you
the
remember
James
my
Webb.
takeaway from all of that? Remember what I said? It was 3 words. I know.
Nothing. Oh,
Nothing.
I do remember that.
He had to think about that. He was like, "There's 3 words."
Yeah, I was doing the math. That's sad. And in my brain, I looked like that too. I was like,
3 words. Yeah. I know nothing. Oh man, it's mind blowing.
I wasn't going to take us down the alien rabbit trail because I can do
Let's
that all day
go.
long. But when it comes to a technology standpoint, I feel like that whole catalyst point I'm talking about, I was not going to say it because I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up. But because you did, I think that that's what's necessary for us to figure out how to, master what we've done. Because we've gotten to a point technologically that everything we have is just dangerous. We can do a whole bunch of cool stuff, but it kills a bunch of crap.
absolutely.
We have gotten to the place of faster horses.
Yes.
And it's going to take alien technology. It's going to take AI to get us to a car.
Exactly.
That's the thing. And so even when you look at, if you nerd out on space travel, I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm sure I'm not nearly the smartest person on this topic, but when we look at how we travel to space, we use a whole bunch of fuel. We propel. It's propulsion, pushing the opposite way, energy going that way. That's not what's going to get us to Mars.
No.
It's going to be some technology, a bunch of number crunching and math that a computer can do that we can't.
No, we cannot.
That is going to figure out.
that'll scratch the edge of space time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which
we're doing.
It's not going to be
Yeah.
fuel,
Right.
propulsion.
Just
and we
traveling with
push off.
your brown bag lunch. Right.
That's not how we're going to get there.
I mean, again, in the ancient alien stuff, they've been talking about the whole Stargate thing and how you got portals that can do it. That 0-point gravity conversation, I think, is super important, and us tapping into that and being able to harness anti-gravity and actually being able to use it for fuel.
And then, did you see recently that there's reports coming out that the Earth core is now spinning in the
it
opposite
slowed
direction?
down and turned around. Yep.
And that was like a ticker on the news.
I saw it.
17 spots down.
Wait, it was funny. I remember watching it and it popped up, and I was like, "Wait, the core turned around."
The
What?
core of the Earth is spinning the other way.
I panicked for like 10 minutes.
How
I'm
are we
like, okay,
not
polar shifts are supposed to happen now.
that's a
Like,
lot.
Right.
And then the next week, there was an episode on one of the history it was a National Geographic about what happens when the poles shift.
And let's not, and to kind of get back into the AI conversation,
Sure.
let's not gloss over the fact that all of the intricate technology it takes for you to open a laptop and do multiple things, like that's a lot
of
of
stuff.
math happening
Yeah.
that humans cannot do.
Absolutely. When you think
That's
about
a
this right
ton of
here, there's more power, more calculating power in this than it was when we went to the moon.
It's like
There's
2
more
point
in this.
something million calculations that can happen on
Yeah.
your phone at once.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like complex math.
Even more so now with Chat GPT and stuff like that. Like
Complex math.
even more
Like,
faster. Yeah.
we can't do that. So I'm all for
I
it.
can't even count I know nothing. You know what I mean?
and when you think of how dope technology is in a sense of like, if I'm out of town, like I can check my cameras, I can close my garage door, I can lock my house, I can turn the AC on, all from one app on my phone.
Now, to tie everything together on why AI is so big and so important and so next, is every single time you do that, it's calculating your preferences, what you like, what you dislike,
I like it.
where you like, all this kind of stuff. And this is how it's going to emulate to the point where it's emulating emotion. It's like, seems like whenever people see things that make them laugh, that always seems to be a good thing. Seems like whenever this happens, it always seems to make people cry. And it's going to make all those calculations to the point it can now calculate it on the billionth exponential level to where it seems like it's feeling. And still it's not.
It's not.
It's still emulating, but it's so doggone close.
I don't know. At some point, it'll have to, because what's that calculatory number that we start to feel on? So, I mean, I think our emotions can be calculated down.
Well,
to
the reason why I disagree with that, because where our emotions are concerned, there are chemical reactions that happen with that. That doesn't happen in a cold AI society.
The only
Period.
reason I'll argue that with some of the tech that we have now. We currently have 2 forms of technology that propel the cars that are on our roads now. You have gasoline and you have electricity. They both do the exact same thing. One is more efficient based off of what we want efficiency to be now, but they do the exact same thing. The techs are 100% different, all the way down to the compounds that are used to do it. So I feel like emotions have those same type of computational breakdowns.
And I'm going to
I
rebuttal on that
disagree.
one
I
because
disagree.
they do the exact same thing, but the payoffs are still different.
I disagree, because when you look at
Or the cost, I should say.
The cliche. You get on a plane, they tell you, something go down and those oxygen masks come out. As a parent, put yours on first so you don't pass out, and then you can put yours on your kid. Mm-hmm. I don't know too many parents that in that moment wouldn't put it on their kid first, because that's a thing that you don't think through. Your instinct tells you, I need Zoe to survive even if I die. Mm-hmm. I need Isabel to survive even if I don't die. So that's not a calculation a computer would make or AI would make.
No, you're
AI
right.
would always go on the side of it, and it's actually right. It is right to put mine on first, because if I pass out, I can't help them.
I'm gonna have to
But
sit here and disagree with you. I'm gonna give Stone his opportunity to say Jonathan's different.
But I'm saying,
I know what you're saying.
I'm saying,
I know what you're saying.
I agree. I would want to put mine on
Yeah.
first, but I'm telling you, as a parent,
As a-
you want your child to live.
As a parent, I've been in a situation with my son, and maybe I don't panic enough as most people do, but I definitely took care of myself first so that I could focus on being able.
And
to
I
made the
don't,
logical choice,
and I don't
so,
doubt
yeah.
that.
and it
will
was
happen.
necessary, because had I tried to do something for him, we both would have died.
Facts.
So
Right. And that's where sometimes the
Johnny's
calculations
might
can be
be
better,
different.
because how many bad decisions do we make based off of emotion?
Based off of
Absolutely.
emotion. And that's
Because
so
I'm
That's all
summing
I'm
that
getting
up
at.
to say that's a
Yeah.
terrible decision.
But and that's what
for
I
me to put it on her.
That's what I was
Right.
getting at, is that I think that the development and the evolution of what AI is doing, I think it's showing us how we should actually be as humans. But our overly emotional state is what's holding us back from doing some stuff. We want money. We want profits.
Right,
we want the control that
But,
we've
and
always
then,
had.
but
So
then
it holds us back
there's
from
other
that,
things
from-
that I don't think computers can emulate, because even when you look at that decision, if I say, man, I'm putting this on Zoe first, that's an ego-driven decision. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't live with myself knowing that I helped myself first instead of that's ego-driven.
I got you.
Facts.
That's
Understand that.
ego-driven. That ain't practical. That's ego-driven.
Understood.
So what I'm saying is, there's so much nuance to like
Being
ego and human, you know, all this stuff. That's a different
And that
animal.
stuff is
Lucy
not,
is one of my favorite movies. Not because it's great, but because I think it shows what
Yeah.
happens when we evolve beyond those emotional
Yeah,
constructs.
Lucy was a good movie.
Yeah, but
very
as she gets to the point to where she understands everything more, she becomes less emotional.
Very,
and as
yep.
a human, we see that as, whoa, she's so robotic. But
Right.
her understanding of everything and why things are happening is so far beyond what we can comprehend.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the trajectory that we're on.
we're on. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Here's
And
my
I
thing.
believe AI is going to push us faster towards that.
I think the difference between AI and the human element is going to be so minuscule that it's pretty much undetectable.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's not detectable or different. It's just
But you'd have to
Yeah, I
look
think
for
it would be.
undetectable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more thing I wanted to touch on too about the AI conversation. You know how everybody gets up in arms when, like, you know, you having we having this conversation right now, and then I go home and start scrolling Instagram, and all kind of ads come
Yeah,
up
yeah,
about
'cause they're
aliens
listening.
and da da da.
Yeah.
And I'll be and I understand from a
Privacy.
human standpoint of privacy and da da da, but I always wonder why people get so up in arms about that. Like, I'm that person who, I want you to market to me the things I want. Like, I love when I say backpack and then I go home and there's a million backpacks ads and I'm like, oh, let me see what backpacks they have. And maybe I'm just weird and
it
quirky.
cuts down your searching. Yeah.
I want all the technology. I want follow me to monitor my emails.
There it is.
But
Oh.
again,
Send all spam to Leslie Brathwaite. That's
again-
Lester. I won't give it out.
but again, I think that's also an indictment of, I don't mind because of how I live. Ain't nothing in my emails that I feel some kind of way of
but
somebody
sometimes
sees.
it's not even about hiding anything. It's still about, for me, it's about what's mine and my decision on what I do with what's mine. Rather be my conversation, rather be what I watch. Give me the option and the choice. That's all I'm asking for. Don't make the decision for me.
Well, it ain't making a
That's what I
decision
do.
for you. It's just
It
sending-
absolutely
sending you
did.
options.
Well, just because I said backpack, don't send me every backpack ad. I don't like that backpack. I don't like that backpack. I like that backpack. I hate that store though. I'll decide that. Is what I'm saying.
I need all the information.
But once again, we do it so much where now I'm getting spammed. It's like, I like that backpack because it came from REI. Well, REI is all about nature, and they give to this philanthropic society. So
start
now I'm getting
getting
emails
spams
from the society, and it just
Well, see, that's just a byproduct of where we are
snowballs.
now. The tech is so new, so to speak, that it's still learning.
Can we please
Next.
why is spam not illegal?
Well, I don't even check my emails most of the time anymore.
Yeah, I get all that, but that is a very real question that might be for another day and time.
Yeah.
I need to know why
I got
spam.
that many unread right now.
I need to know why spam is not illegal. How is
I think I
that
got
not
you beat.
illegal?
You got me beat. You got 17,000 beat.
look at
He
my
got
heart.
me beat by 20K. Yeah.
Oh no! Oh, 30.
Yeah, I thought 17,000 was bad.
That's just where you hit
Yo,
delete all.
when my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, she'll pick up my phone and be like, "Daddy," and I'd be like, "What?" She'd be like, "Daddy, it's too many unread emails."
I hate.
But the cool thing is,
I hate seeing that number. This is my number.
Open AI. See, that's get it out of here.
Because I hate seeing that number.
You're not a
I
professional.
need, yeah.
The highest
I
I've
need at
ever
least
gotten. The highest,
37,000.
and I remember because the highest I've ever gotten was 1,002. That's the highest I've ever gotten. I can't stand seeing that. And
love
there's
it.
there's a psychology between the red dot. Also, we all know that there's a psychology for that red badge that comes up.
I got
and
mad
I
red
hate
dots.
seeing that number in that red badge.
I think you're 100% right on that. Mine's probably the adverse of what yours is. There was a professor.
Look at all my apps. Look at all the red dots.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
There was a
I couldn't
professor
do that.
he had cancer and they knew he was going to pass away. There was no technology that could. Oh, my bad. That could save him. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
And he was just talking about all the things that he had to do. So he like in the process. I wish I could remember his name. We'll put it up in the description. But before he passed away, one thing that he did was clear out all of his voicemails and all of his emails. And ever since I heard that story, I have like subconsciously associated with if that gets to 0, I die. Because
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God! Well, no, and this is why. Because my whole life, I've always known you only have a certain amount of breaths. You don't know how many you're gonna take. And then when they came out with that movie, was it 1,000 words that Eddie Murphy was in? It was like you have so many words, and it's just like
I used to think
those
that
are
I
my-
was weird.
no, dude, I'm strange.
Johnny is
I'm
wild.
out there, bro.
Yo, wow.
So
He takes pride in it, too.
I fully embrace it because there's no way to get a riff from it.
You are definitely wild.
There's some things that I associate with that, so I will
But
never
a lot
get
of
that
it
to
is
0.
a lot. I tell Johnny sometimes too. A lot of it is what do you call it? Not a cage, but it keeps him trapped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It keeps him in
freer-
bondage.
I'm
It's like
freer
a
than
bondage.
most.
Well, I know
Wild
you
boy.
say that, but
I'm freer than
we had
most.
a deep dive kind of in his whole thing about choice. It was a whole thing, and we got to a point where he kind of like, I see what you're saying. I'm gonna think about that. But we realized how he thinks about choice or the lack thereof, how it affects other certain decisions, and he was like, I can see where he put that together. You know what I mean? So some of them, I get it's all personality. It's not a wrong or right thing. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I think you're holding yourself back for some things on
fine.
that.
Doing great.
But his whole thing is
Very
Johnny is
strange.
fine.
Oh,
What's,
no,
yo,
Very
you're not
strange.
wrong.
Very
on the music stuff, what's the next for you? What are you working on
Yeah, what are
right
you doing now? And what are you
now?
using technologically that's different now than what you used even just 12 months ago?
I can answer that very easily. I mix into a limiter now, which I never used to do.
Which is, I can't believe that.
Yeah,
Because I
mixed-
started doing that 15 years ago because of Sam Thomas. So why have you not done that and why are you doing it now?
I haven't done it because I always like the feel of how things go and trusting the mastering engineer, and I still do. But for some reason, I think I heard Jason Joshua speak about transients and what that sounds like when you mix into a limiter. And I tried it, and I was like, Jason got a point. I kind of like this.
Okay.
And so it was just one of them things I started picking up and putting in my workflow.
Which one? Which one? Or two?
Oh, the one I told you about.
Oh,
The
okay.
IK
Right on.
Multimedia TR5. I
Right
use
on.
that pretty much on every mix now.
Okay.
As far as what I'm working on right now, a bunch of different projects. We're in the middle of Cardi B's album right now. I think we got about 3 or 4 solid keepers. Pharrell's working again, so we're mixing.
Oh, nice.
It's a slow burn with him. He just like mixes one-offs every now and then, here and there. I'm mixing the new Earth Gang album. We're working on that right now. Mixing some stuff for Marvel, some trailers
Right on.
that are coming up.
Anything transformative that's going to push creativity forward that you've seen?
It's funny that you said transformative. I also just mixed the new Transformers trailer for Paramount.
What?
Yeah.
Word. Wait, no, that's like me being like, we just bought a new microphone for the podcast room. He's just like, he's just so whatever,
So
dude.
cavalier with it.
That's a
Mix the new Transformers trailer.
congratulations, man.
That's
Thank you,
big,
thank
yo.
you.
Not that you, I mean,
Yeah.
where do we stop?
When
saying
legends
that's
do
big for
legendary
legendary
stuff is always good.
The cool thing, one of the coolest things that happened to me recently is because I'm doing my course at Full Sail, my online course, I just reconnected with Rodney Jerkins because he's tied into the school as well.
Oh, okay.
And he's doing a course, so I'm kind of helping him develop his course, and he and I have been talking. So reconnecting with Rodney's cool.
Is this going to be on the creative side or more business?
Creative.
Stuff? I know he's, okay.
Yeah, creative.
Okay.
And he's doing a lot of Rodney's one of those people. He's like a Raphael Sadiq. They got their hands
Everything.
so much stuff that's still popping. They still relevant, but nobody knows.
But nobody knows it.
You will fall out if you know all the stuff Raphael Sadiq produced, worked on. I'm talking about film scores, movie stuff. Same thing with Rodney. No, most people don't even know Rodney had something to do with SZA or. Like it's a lot of stuff that he's got his hands in, and he's still relevant, but he's just so behind.
Right.
He stays behind the scenes. Yeah.
He ain't on TikTok.
And he's been pushing, like his young writers and producers, he's kind of been pushing them forward.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't find out about this stuff until the radio interview came out when they were talking about how they put it. I was like, wait, he did what?
Yeah.
And then I went back because obviously there are no credits to read anymore. And I went back and I was reading it, and his name was even like at the bottom of the credits list. I was like, what?
Rodney's doing his thing.
Yeah, it's
so
big.
What are your thoughts on that? Why credits went away? I never understood why. What's the purpose?
The beginning of this conversation explains all of it because that's no longer the product. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I don't think people care. I don't think the kids care. I don't think they, and we care because I mean it's partly how we make our living or get the next gig or da da da. But it's just an interesting process to see evolve about how data is collected, how we know who's working on what, and how engineers come up now or how producers come up.
Based off of what you just said, like how engineers and producers come up now with that change. One thing I intended to ask early in the conversation was, how do you see that evolving? Because the way you came up was different than how I
Very
got
different.
in. And then the Jessica and Emily that we talked to last week, how they're doing it, I'm just like, from a female perspective, I can't even wrap my head around how they're doing it.
There are
now,
platforms like, so for instance, Ali started, Engineers, the platform. And there's a ton of young cats that get booked through engineers to do mixes. I've actually got booked through engineers to do mixes. I just put a thing on there just to try to help Ali grow his business, and then people start hitting me up to mix stuff. But
Is it called Engineers?
It's called Engine Ears.
Oh, Engine Ears. Is it an app?
But it's a platform. It's an app and a website where, as an engineer, you go on there, you create your profile, and people book you through the site.
That's dope.
The efficient thing about the site is engineers. So they pay engineers. They send their money to them.
Sure.
They
get their
monitor
cut.
the process of. It's kind of like eBay, where
Okay.
you send them your
Dope.
money. So if I want to book you, I gotta swipe my credit card to do whatever to engineers.
Yep.
That money is already comes out. They hold it.
Yep.
They monitor the process and make sure that I'm doing the mix. You're doing the mixes.
So deliverables come through the platform and all that.
Yeah.
Right on.
goes through
Okay.
the
Almost like
platform,
Peerspace, too.
And then once I click that I'm happy with your mix, they release the payment to you.
How do they vet people for that?
For to be
engineers,
engineers,
yeah.
so you have to be onboarded by them.
Okay.
You have
There you
to have a resume. You have to pass a process. Well, those of us who like, for instance, like me, because Ali knew who I was.
Well, sure, yeah, you
he
skip
just
all that.
onboarded me.
Yeah.
That. But new engineers, you
Is
have
there
to go
anyone
through a
who's
process.
where do you have to submit anything where someone's literally listening to your mix or something? Like, how do you? Because you can. Well, because
What do you mean, like the client?
Yeah. So if I'm an engineer and I want to be listed on Engineers, like how do they vet me and know that I'm a quality engineer?
They have to onboard you by. It's a process. They
Okay.
gotta vet your mixes.
Okay,
They
that's
need,
what I'm saying.
Referrals. It's
That's
different.
dope.
Yeah, it's different steps to it, and it's picking up. It's a lot of people use it now.
Right on.
A lot of people hit me up on
And who's
there.
the founder?
Ali, Ali, the engineer. He's Derek Ali,
Derek Ollie. Where's he
Yeah.
based?
L.A. He famously came up mixing Kendrick Lamar stuff, and we all know him. He's a great guy.
That
Cool
is
dude.
so dope. Shout out to Ali.
Absolutely, it's a
For real.
great platform, and it's dope, and it keeps out all the middle BS of chasing your check.
Yes.
Wondering if the label's gonna pay you, and they only get a certain amount of revisions, and then if they want more revisions, they have to pay more.
And as a client,
there's
you
a time
know you're
frame.
getting someone who's good.
It's
That's the
very
thing. You don't have to
streamlined.
wonder, is this guy good or not? And I'm not.
And then you could have a section on there for people who want to book you. They could go check some of your other mixes. Like, it's very streamlined. It's literally what I think a lot of businesses do well in is he recognized the problem and he solved it.
Yep.
He's a problem solver. So that app and that platform solved a problem for us.
So who dictates your rate?
You do. So you get to say, this is my rate.
Got
on
you.
it. And then you can negotiate with the person up or
Phenomenal.
down. Then you establish it. Then they send the money. And then they send you the rough mix. Before they send their money, they have to send you the rough mix, and you have to accept that you want to do this project.
Phenomenal.
They send you the rough mix and the files.
Oh, so it's a check on both sides.
Yeah, so you gotta see
nice.
hear the rough mix and see the files. And if you want to mess with it for the price point you discussed, you hit yes, and then they send their money, And then I start to work, and then there's a countdown. There's a calendar of how many days you agree it's going to take you. And it follows the whole process. It's very
Well, I'm saying
intuitive.
right now, Ali needs to send you a check because I'm about to ask you one more question. Is like, what if the client doesn't like the mix when it's all said and
Okay,
done?
so and I've had that situation actually happen to me.
Okay.
Where it was a younger client, didn't really know what he wanted, and he was like, we went through this process, and I'm not happy with the mix. So then we get to negotiate, which is I want to still keep a good reputation out there. Okay. So I don't want to say, well, F you, I did the work, and I keep the money, which I legally can. He knows that when he signs up.
Okay, all right.
But to keep our relationship cool.
And because you're that guy, like for real.
He said, hey, man, what if you give me back half and keep half for your trouble, da-da-da. I was like, that's fair. And I did that. And then they administered a half back to him.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was just a fair thing to do. He just wasn't happy. He didn't know what he wanted. And, it wasn't an indictment on my skills. He's just young. And
As Leslie be like, he ain't know nothing.
yeah, his mix
He don't know this is what I do.
His mix sounded crazy. His mix sounded super crazy. So his song sounded crazy. So I was like, once I heard the quality of the song, this could go either way. So when people go back and forth with me about mixes and the song is terrible, I'd be like, yeah, their judgment is off to begin with. So
I'm going to wrap what I'm going to say with that's right to my point where AI is concerned. There's kids nowadays are so used to what I feel is subpar quality. That it's totally acceptable to them. So when you get these people that know the difference between the human element and AI, that's what I mean. That's becoming such a lost thing because they're like, I did this on my phone and it's fire.
Yeah,
that's the perfect circumstance. To my point.
And it's all about the standard you create. Quick story. So I had this thing in my house where I would never watch anything that wasn't HD content. I just can't do it anymore, right? So my kids, when they hang out with their mom, she doesn't care. Doris be like, I'm gonna watch whatever. She watch all kind of crazy stuff. And literally, I would base my content on if they don't have an HD, because this is when HD first started bubbling and people started broadcasting in HD. Like 24 was one of the first shows to go HD. Lost was broadcast in HD, all that kind of stuff. So I determined my content based on HD. So one day they hanging with their mom, and then they call me and go, Daddy, we see why you really are stuck on HD. This looks terrible. Because they didn't know
Daddy, I need glasses. It's so blurry.
They didn't know what they didn't know. So that they was, so they understood right then, that's why he's so big on
to your
the
point,
quality.
great content will still transcend because I walked in the house today before I came here to go grab my computer, and my son and my wife were watching dinosaurs, which did not broadcast in HD. It was in 4:3. It looked like trash, but it was funny.
Yeah.
The show was funny.
I'm gonna say your thing again because I don't think people should miss it. Great content will always transcend.
And you're actually right, because there are shows that I will be forced to rewatch. Like me and my oldest daughter are watching Friends now, and Friends never broadcasted in HD.
No.
And it's painful to sit there and watch some of them, but it's such a funny show.
Yeah,
it's
great
good content.
Yeah.
And the first episodes of The Office weren't HD.
They're right.
So, and we're watching The Office together. And that's my favorite show of all time.
And commercially, good content is determined not by the creator, but by the public.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, shoot, I already knew this was going to be a good
we
episode.
hit everything. No, I don't know if we hit everything.
And then some. I think and then
I don't know if we
some.
touched all of it.
This was long.
Yeah, I don't know because it was a long list.
We
I
covered
think we covered everything and then some. We went to the aliens. That wasn't even on the list.
Right, good.
So remind everyone where they can follow you again, man. Follow.
I'll be online. I'm on Twitch for sure every night playing Call of Duty, answering questions. I do it simultaneously.
That gets funny sometimes.
Twitch, yeah. Oh,
you play COD?
Huh? I used to play COD.
But
no,
I just jump on the stream.
Yeah, I just jump on the stream.
Yeah, my nephews are wild. So I play with my nephews and a couple other cats, and we'd be on there having all kind of conversation. Xbox.
And what are you?
But you can play on. Yeah,
you can play on.
I know it is.
So we can do whatever now. But yeah, twitch.tv/. Lester Bud.
Thank you for doing that because I'm so sick of people saying backslash.
Yeah, it's /.
Yeah. They didn't hear Lester Bud.
Lester Bud. Twitch.tv/Lester Bud. My course is at fullsailedc3.com/Leslie. Nice. So, and it's a cool little way to learn all the insides of my brain and all that good stuff.
So I need to support you on that.
So that's where I be at.
To your course. essentially.
I mean, well, you got the inside.
I do have the end. I'm just trying to set the example for people. Just because you're friends, you still offer the support, and you let that person say, "I'll hook you up."
Right.
Don't be like, "Yo, let me get the hookup." You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you good. You call me anytime.
Just Johnny Vaughn, JUSTJONYVAN on all of the stuff.
Man, y'all already know straightforward. StoneStafford.com. Everything is on there. We appreciate you guys. We want you to like, subscribe. Make sure you go support Leslie on all his channels as well. And we appreciate you telling a friend and getting us to that 1 million subscriber in 2023.
And make sure you
we
answer the
getting
question at
there.
the
We
bottom of
getting
this. Did we or did we not go to the moon?
We getting there. 1 million
Yo, we
subscribers.
love y'all. We are out of here. Peace.
Peace.
So back to what I was saying.